Hi, I'm Chuck Joyner, and this is MacVoicesTV at BlogWorld in Las Vegas. And wandering around the halls between conferences, I ran into Chuck Tournous of Random Access and the Mac Observer. Chuck, it's great to see you.
Thanks, Chuck. Good to see you, too.
Okay, give me the pitch.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Chuck Tournous from Random Access. That's 2 M's, 2 C's, 2 S's. Now you get to see me do it in person.
Exactly, yes. And I actually dragged Chuck on camera as we were thinking about doing this just audio only, but it seems only fair that people get to see you for once instead of just hear your intelligence come out on the Mac Jury and Mac Voices.
Well, they may regret that decision once they see the video, Chuck, but we'll find out.
I don't think so. Chuck, how's the show been for you?
I think it's been interesting. I mean, to contrast it with MacWorld, which is the show that I'm used to seeing, it's obviously a much smaller show. You know, I walked around and got to the end of the exhibit hall and tried to find out where the next section of it was, you know, not expecting that there'd be a lot more to it. But the people who are here are really enthusiastic. There's a lot of passion here, just like with MacWorld. And there are a lot of people from the Mac community here, too. So it makes it an interesting show. You get kind of a different perspective on things that we're used to seeing from MacWorld. But that different perspective, even coming from some of the same people that I'm used to seeing at MacWorld, is very interesting to get.
I agree with you. I think it makes us appreciate the things that MacWorld offers, but you're right, it also changes your perspective a lot, expands your horizons, you start to think a little bit differently about things, which is a good thing from where I sit, because so often we're sort of in our own little isolated bubble.
Sure. Yeah, and what I kept thinking about now is that as MacWorld is in such transition, a show of this size can be deemed a real success, but if the sign MacWorld was on the front of this building instead of BlogWorld, everyone would be decrying it as a complete failure. So you have to, I think, take things, have the right perspective when you're looking at things.
It's one place I disagree with Apple. I think the trade shows still have a lot of value because it's not just about the show floor, and the sessions are so important, but it's the human interaction, that give and take. Half the time what's going on in the hallways is at least as important as what's going on in the conference sessions themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And Apple may not care so much about the networking that goes on in the hallways, but the thing that is happening here too is that there are a lot of influencers at these shows. So a lot of what they're getting when they see an exhibitor, and if Apple were here, you know, they'd see that, they're taking back with them, and they're kind of disseminating that to all the people that they do influence. So I think the value of a trade show goes beyond just the traffic numbers that go through it.
Agreed. Now, people that have listened to us on the Mac Jury know both of us, this is not what we do primarily. We have other jobs. You're here partially in relation to that because you work for a large company, I work for a small company. These companies are all trying to figure out social media, and we're both finding we're not alone here. There are a lot of people trying to figure out social media from a more corporate standpoint. What kind of response are you seeing, both, again, from the people you're talking to and from the sessions?
Well, when I got here, I fully expected to find out that I was years behind the curve on this thing, and that social media is something that everybody had already figured out, and that I was going to do a lot of scrambling to try to catch up. And I found that that's not really the case. Nobody really seems to know what to do with it from a corporate perspective yet. And I think there are still opportunities for those who do figure it out fairly quickly, though, to really get ahead of the curve on that and to benefit from it. And I do believe that there are opportunities, that there is a value in corporations doing social networking. There are conversations that go on about our clients and our products and services every day, and they're going to happen whether we're part of the conversation or not. So the sooner we get involved with that, either at least as listeners, but hopefully as active participants, the better off we're going to be.
We've both seen stories run in the newspapers about our respective companies or companies that we all know that they did something ungodly terrible with customer service, or, you know, they killed my dog or whatever. And the companies they've sort of figured out how to respond to that. But it's a whole nother one when that starts going on Twitter or Facebook and it almost becomes a meme. We've seen Comcast do a pretty good job with it. We've seen some others step in and start to try to take control of it. But it's still one that nobody's quite sure exactly how to implement it.
No, and the important thing to realize with social media is that you can't do it on your own timetable. Even if you are responding to public relations disasters, the Tylenol scare of 20 years ago or whatever, they did a great job with that, but they were able to respond quickly, but yet not immediately. They had some time to develop a plan and to get things together. With social media, if you don't respond right away, you get so far behind in that conversation that it's almost impossible to get control of it, to manage the message that gets out there. So companies are really going to need to figure this out quickly because, as I said, the conversations are happening now.
There's so much talk of the real-time web, and this is exactly what you're talking about.
Right, yeah. I mean, even as we record this, we saw the birth meme, and that's Balloon Boy. So, just in the last couple of days, you've seen just a small story kind of capture the web's attention, take control over it, and then die out already. So these things have really short lifespans, and if companies are too slow to respond to them, they're just going to be irrelevant at this point.
That's a really interesting example because I watched on Twitter some of our friends say, "Oh my God, this is terrible. I was sick to my stomach because I could see my kid, doing something like this." And then you find out that it was completely bogus. So this may be a good lesson for people to really start to question this immediacy, question the filters that are not in place for that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know what the lesson is. I just know that you have to be careful because no longer can you just assume everything that comes your way is accurate or even partially accurate.
Right. And again, I think that makes the case for companies to get involved quickly because if they want to be authoritative, if they want to be the trusted source for things, they have to deliver the message firsthand. They can't just let it happen virally anymore. You don't know who to trust anymore.
I'm thinking of the David Letterman situation where David seems to have taken control of his rather well. I mean, there have been a lot of second guessers, but he hasn't let it fester. He has continued to address it as he felt necessary, and he seemed to have kept it under pretty good control.
He did. I kind of think that industry gave him a little bit of a leg up too, because there seems to be kind of a gentleman's agreement that the other late night talk show hosts won't use it quite as much as fodder as they might have had it been, the Clinton affair of years gone by or something else in the news. So he may benefit from that a little bit. But yeah, he did respond to it as soon as it got out and tackled it head on, and I think that did help him a lot.
And you get into that question of standards, which is where what we were talking about is a lot more prevalent. People are going to hold the companies we're associated with to a lot higher standards than Balloon Boy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And loyalty to a company or trust for a company is very important, and it's so easy to lose and so hard to get back once you do lose it. So that's a message that companies need to keep in mind.
I'd forgotten about the Tylenol scare, but that's another one where that could have killed a business. Think what happened to Chi-Chi's with the green onions.
That's right. Yeah.
They're gone.
And they're gone. And on the other hand, I think it was Taco Bell had a similar problem with E. coli with theirs. They did get right in front of that message and managed to weather the storm. So how you handle these kinds of crises can really make a difference in what happens to your company.
And I think there's something to be said for social media development in preparation for those things. Because if you already have the channels up, you've established yourself as trusted in those channels, you have them available to deliver messages when hopefully you will never have to. But if you do, you've now prepared yourself.
Yeah. One of the good takeaways I got from one of the sessions that I was in is we understand that it's hard for companies to respond quickly to some of these things, but if you can have sort of a set of prepackaged responses that have been vetted by your compliance department or your lawyers so that they're okay to use, you can have those kind of in the can waiting for an opportunity to use them.
But then you also have to be able to respond, because the cans are only going to go so far because there are going to be too many people asking questions.
Right.
In fact, I don't think you were in the keynote this morning, but they had a number of entertainers up there, or people in the entertainment industry. Someone in the audience was basically asking the question, it's my right to ask you as a celebrity a question. And nobody ever got around to saying, yeah, but it's our right not to answer. But she was just adamant that it's my right to ask. It's my right to ask.
Yeah, it's a funny mentality that's come out of this. It sort of levels the playing field where everyone's accessible now, and the flip side of that is that everyone has an expectation that they'll be responded to, and how people or companies deal with that is going to be interesting to sort through in the next few years.
And with what I do with MacVoices, what you do with Random Access, we get the barest little taste of that. Because if you get an email or a tweet or whatever from someone asking you about something, you really need to answer it if you possibly can. Because if not, then it might get repeated 3 or 4 times, and after a while, people say, "Well, they never answer my questions." And
I have people to do that for me.
oh, excuse me, your staff are the people standing behind the camera right now. I see. I got it. Well, you're heading back, I guess, to the East Coast pretty soon, and so am I.
Yep. Yeah, I'm heading back to New Jersey by way of San Francisco, which I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. But yeah, I'll be home. I'll be flying for the next 12 hours, it seems, and be home sometime Sunday morning.
Building the airline miles, apparently.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. You take a couple round trips around the country, and those frequent flyer miles start to add up.
Chuck, it's good to see you. I'm so glad we got together, and we'll see you again soon on the Mac Jury.
Sounds good, Chuck. Thanks.
I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices TV at BlogWorld in Las Vegas. We'll be back again with more. Thanks for listening. MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices group and a member of Mac Level 10.